Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today's session is part of Together We Innovate, an online event to help you understand how AWS partners are supporting our customers' cloud computing journey. My name is Anil Sharma. I'm a specialist solution architect at AWS, and I will be your host and moderator for today's webinar. In today's session, you will hear from Rapyder, our AWS Advanced partner, and NeoGrowth's Credit, who will talk about how Rapyder optimized NeoGrowth's operational costs by migrating their Windows workloads to AWS. Now, before we get started, there are a few housekeeping rules that you must be aware of. First of all, before you join today's webinar, you selected to either join via the phone or computer audio. If you want to change that selection, you can do that by accessing the audio pane in the control panel. Also from this control panel, you will have opportunity to submit questions to today's presenters. I encourage you to ask questions. You can ask questions by typing in your questions in the question pane in the control panel. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session towards the end. Also, if you're not able to get to your question, we will plan on responding to each one of you personally via email, right? At the end of today's session, you will receive a set of survey questions. Please take the time out to provide feedback so that we can continue to improve and understand what do you require so that you are successful in your cloud journey. This is the platform that you can use to highlight if you require any assistance from AWS or Rapyder, our partner, after this session, right? And finally, this session is being recorded. We will share a copy of this recording by the end of next week. For today's session, we have our two speakers. We have Atreya Ramdas from Rapyder, and we have Vamsi Krishna Raju from NeoGrowths. Atreya has about 14 years of experience in field of DevOps, cloud computing, automation technologies. He has worked in large enterprises like Nokia, EMC, and Misys. He is a certified AWS solution architect and has expertise in architecting highly scalable, available, fault-tolerant cloud infrastructure. Atreya is a recognized industry leader when it comes to assessment, migration of workloads, DevOps, and security. Mr. Vamsi Krishna Raju is Senior Vice President of Engineering and Head of Information Technology at NeoGrowth's Credit. NeoGrowth's Credit is a digital lending firm serving SME businesses pan-India. He brings 17 plus years of experience and leadership in fields of fintech, cloud, and enterprise architecture across multiple geographies, including India, UK, and Southeast Asia. He is a speaker in various regional technology forums and an avid reader. All right. Now, before we get started, as you can understand, today's session is about Microsoft workloads. I do want to qualify what is it that we call or understand as Microsoft or Windows workloads, right? For us, a Microsoft workload or a Windows workload in this context is any application or a system software or a database that needs Windows Server to run, right? It can be like most of our Microsoft server products like SharePoint, Exchange, SQL Server, Dynamics, they are all included in that. Microsoft infrastructure software like Windows, AD, System Center, they're also included. If you have homegrown applications or custom log applications built on .NET, workflows, travel management, LMS, etc., those are also included. Third-party software like Citrix, Adobe, PeopleSoft that runs on Windows, again, part of Windows workloads. And if you have local ISV or solution providers that have products or solutions built on .NET, things like, let's say, payroll, e-learning solutions, etc., those are also included. So we are going to talk about all of these workloads as Windows workloads or Microsoft workloads, and we're going to talk about how you can bring those workloads to AWS and optimize them. And we will see, we'll hear from Rapyder and NeoGrowth, Mr. Vamsi as well, as to how they did their journey when they wanted to move their Windows workload to AWS, right? Before we get into that, there is a set of common questions and perceptions that we get from our customers, and I wanted to address them upfront, right? We get questions like, does AWS run Windows workloads, right? Wouldn't they run better on Microsoft's own cloud? And essentially, the essential question that is probably underlying all of this is, why should customers choose AWS for running their Windows workloads? Right? And that's what we want to address. The simple question around why should customers choose AWS for their Microsoft workloads? Now, as you can see, we have a bunch of reasons here. We have the most experience of running Windows on public cloud than any other public cloud provider, 14 plus years of experience. And this experience also translates into tangible business benefits, tangible architectural benefits that you can accrue by adopting AWS for your Windows workloads. For instance, we have 350 plus services offerings where comparable service simply does not exist across other public clouds. The reason for that is because throughout our experience, we've also listened to our customers and given you, heard them where are the gaps, and we've built in products and features addressing those problems. Right? So it's not just about experience; it's also about listening to customers and making sure that we are solving problems that are common to our customers that can benefit them. Right? We have unparalleled global reach, 80 plus availability zones across 24 geography regions. Security and compliance is a day zero job. 230 odd compliances and certifications on AWS. If you have solutions that require compliances, you will find services on AWS that adhere to those compliances. Right? Our engineering and experience also shows up in our ability to offer things like 80,000 IOPS per instance with consistency on AWS. Right? And not just that, we have since 2006 made 68 TCO price reductions on AWS, passing on the benefits of scale to our customers. Right? So these are some of the reasons why we have seen customers choose AWS for their Microsoft workloads. Right? And not just that, so there are some intangible benefits as well. For instance, what we found, we did a study with IDC and we found that Microsoft customers who adopt AWS achieve 26% higher developer productivity. Right? We had another independent research that came out from ZK Research. They ran SQL Server on AWS and other public cloud providers, and what they found was, for the same set of SQL Server, for the same workload, AWS instances were able to deliver twice the price to performance advantage on AWS as compared to other cloud providers. Right? So all of this makes our customers choose AWS for their Windows workloads. Right? Now, to drill down into some of these, so I'll not go into all of those reasons. You will hear from Atreya and Vamsi. But what I want to give you is a few scenarios where you can accrue tremendous benefit by adopting it. First of this is enterprise class security. On AWS, security is a day zero job. Right? We have natively built security from ground up. It is finally the fine-grained control on AWS that you can get to build secure solutions and secure workflows, etc., is something that is unparalleled. We have more than 50 compliance certifications, etc., available for you to build your solutions. So all in all, when you adopt AWS for your Microsoft workloads, you get a solution that is based on services that are secured from ground up. Right? Not just that. If I were to talk about, let's say, a lot of my customers use SQL Server. Right? We have built a lot of guidance, quick starts, and automation for our SQL Server customers. For instance, if you have advanced deployments like building always-on availability groups, or you want to build all failover cluster of SQL servers, right? Both of these are not just possible on AWS, but you have a single-click deployment that is available out of the box on AWS, right? You can combine HA and DR, high availability and disaster recovery, using our multi-AZ architecture. We can achieve zero data loss using our multi-AZ architecture, right? We've also made it easy for you via services like license managers, etc., to manage your licenses. You can bring your own licenses. You can have scenarios where you want to use your secondaries for workloads, and you can have automated or manual failovers on AWS when you're building solutions on SQL Server, right? So these are some of the examples that I just wanted to bring forth that target specifically solutions built on SQL Server, right? Like I said, a lot of my customers have SQL Server based deployment, and we made it really easy for them to adopt and be productive and accrue benefits of adopting AWS for their SQL Server workloads, right? Not just that, if you talk about AD, another workload that we see very common in our Microsoft based customers, what we find is that they have adopted AD, and obviously they want to extend the same AD or get the same benefit on AWS as well. We have a fully managed service called AWS Managed Microsoft AD. Using that, AWS configures and manages the host monitoring, recovery, issues, things like data replication or snapshots, software updates. All of these are managed by AWS, leaving you to manage just your identity objects, right? So a lot of my customers adopt AWS managed AD when they want to bring their own, extend their AD infrastructure on AWS, right? So it's not just about SQL Server or managed AD, but also if you look at it, I have a lot of customers who run large Windows enterprise workloads on AWS, and very frequently their challenge is as to how they can manage that infrastructure. What about compliance, patch compliance? What about maintenance? What about drift? How do you capture drift, etc.? So all of those, we have made it very easy and automated for our customers using Systems Manager, right? You can have a run command that targets all of this infrastructure, allows you to manage your Windows infrastructure on AWS at scale, thereby improving visibility and control of your Windows infrastructure on AWS, right? It allows you to respond to events faster and can reduce incident resolution as well, right? So that's the whole idea that we have. It's not just about developers audience. So you can develop using .NET and services on AWS, let's say Lambdas, etc. If you want to do that, it's not just about SQL Server. It's not just about services like managed AD, but also if you are wanting to manage Windows Server or any Microsoft workloads, like you saw in the first slide on AWS, we will make it really easy and automated for you. So across the personas, developer, database administrator, Windows administrator, all of those personas can achieve higher productivity and become a lot more productive on AWS once our customers choose AWS for their Microsoft workloads, right? And the last one about security, just to lay a little bit more emphasis on this. If you have workloads, and these days it is becoming fairly common, if you have, let's say, DDoS attacks, application attacks, or a bad port, or you have risk from SQL injection kind of workflows, AWS provides services like WAF, AWS Shield, which will protect you from all of these services. So you don't have to do the heavy lifting to actually secure your workloads using all of native or some solutions to do that. You can leave and adopt AWS services, which will help you in mitigating some of these attacks, right? So that's what I wanted to point out, that there is value to be had in adopting AWS for your Microsoft workloads. So now what I want to do before I invite, sorry about that. So before I invite Atreya from Rapyder to talk about how they were able to help, what I want you to take away from that is very clearly that we have the depth and the breadth to address Microsoft workloads on AWS. We have the innovation that we have been constantly doing on behalf of our customers. We have the experience and the engineering excellence and the services that you need to build solutions on AWS for your Microsoft workloads, right? And now to hear from how Rapyder and NeoGrowths were able to optimize their workloads, Microsoft workloads on AWS, I invite Atreya to talk about this workloads. Over to you, Atreya.
Thank you, Anil. So we have heard from Anil on what are the different options and services that AWS offers to run Windows workloads specifically on AWS. I think the services that he kind of pointed out, right from Systems Manager to config to WAF, and those are the things that we use day in day out as part of our both from solutioning perspective, migration perspective, and also during the implementation. So Systems Manager specifically helps in patch management and other things which are very much essential. Otherwise, you'll have to have specific tools to do that, which we'll try to touch upon in the upcoming slides. So what I'll try to do now is try to kind of give an idea on what Rapyder does. Rapyder is an advanced consulting partner with AWS. We have we are in the space of cloud consulting and implementation for around 5 years now. So if you see the type of projects that we have executed over 700 plus projects over the last 5 years, and also the number of VMs that we have migrated across all the projects is exceeded 4,000 now. We are very much inclined towards getting a customer satisfaction survey done at the end of each project. So that's where our NPS score sits around 9.7. More than 60% of the projects that we are getting is from the customers whom we have serviced already. So that will give you an idea on how exactly Rapyder kind of executes the project to the fullest requirement of the customer. Right? As part of our managed services, we have close to 90 plus customers whom we are managing their infrastructure on behalf of them, so that customers can continue to focus on their line of business as part of running their actual day-to-day business. So when it comes to the number of people, we have around 140 plus people in Rapyder, with around almost everybody is AWS certified. So I can bet that you will be in the safe hands when you sign up any project with Rapyder there. So when it comes to what Rapyder can do, it covers migration. So that is something that we do. So migration involves right from the understanding the customer requirements. Why is the workload that they are running currently in wherever they are running, is it suitable to move to cloud? Is it the right what workloads can move to cloud instantaneously? What are the things that needs to be done at the application level to move to cloud, and analyze the costing benefits, soft benefits as well as cost benefits. So people typically think only benefits as only cost, but it's much more than that. So Anil talked about developer community, right? So if your developers develop code faster, it's an indirect soft benefit that gives to the organization to move the products faster into the market and thus increase the business. So that's where Rapyder helps customers analyze, assess, and then help them to move to cloud in an efficient way. Once it is moved, with new age technologies coming in to improve the GTM of the product, of any product for that matter, it becomes very important that we help in customers automating some of their mundane tasks, right? When it comes to code deployment or when it comes to CI/CD. So that's where our DevOps implementation helps there. People are moving to containers and app modernization and things like that. So that's where our DevOps team excels in transforming the complete application portfolio into new age infrastructure and deployment there. And then we have managed services where we work with the customers to continue to maintain their applications on the cloud from both infrastructure perspective and DevOps perspective. So right from monitoring to making sure their applications are available all the time, and also making sure if there is scalability issues and things like that, or application monitoring issues, that's where our database teams and application monitoring teams will come into the play, work with the customer and help them to do a better job of maintaining the uptime as much as possible, so that their success will lead to our success in the backend. Also, we are a well-architected review partners. This gives a very, very strong input to us, because that's where we get to know the customers, what they are doing today, what can be done better, because AWS is innovating fast. So there are a lot of new features that are coming in on a continuous basis. And it's important that we educate our customers on what they can leverage, which will ease up their the way that they are doing things today. So that's where our well-architected reviews, which is part of our managed services and also for new customers, will help us get much more easier into the market. And when it comes to security, we have a capability to do VAPTs and firewall implementations and other things when it comes to enterprise customers, or for that matter, anybody related to, there will be compliances and other things. So in those cases, we help them implement the next level security. By default, security will be there in all the implementations that we do for our customers. So when it comes to customer engagement and also containerization, which is a new thing, so customer engagement, Pinpoint plays a major role. So we have done quite a bit of projects, which I'll kind of touch upon in the upcoming slides. So just to give you the kind of competencies that Rapyder carries and the type of projects we have executed. When it comes to Windows, we are a Windows certified competent partner. So it tells us that we have successfully migrated a lot of customers who are running their Windows workloads on different platforms to AWS, and we know what it takes to run Windows workloads on AWS. Apart from this, we are also having a lot of service delivery programs. We are having a lot of capability on the Lambda, API gateway, config, systems manager, things like that, which will give a lot of inputs and confidence for us and our teams to know how we can help our customers going forward as well. Right? When it comes to digital transformation of any company, this is where we help them. So first thing is, for any company to transform itself, the infrastructure should be kind of scalable and available. It should not become a traditional way of doing it. So that's where the migration piece comes into the play. As I told you, we work with the customer, understand what workloads are best suited to move to cloud, what changes are required, are those applications cloud ready. We work with the customer and help them move to cloud. Initially, customers prefer to make it lift and shift, and then we try to optimize from there on to make it better there, right? And also when it comes to the improvisation after it has been moved to cloud, DevOps plays a major role. That's where our DevOps practice helps there. And we have executed 70 plus DevOps only projects, which is also part of our managed services as we go ahead as well. When it comes to containerization and customer engagement platforms, so typically we have seen customers using different channels for different engagement platforms. Like email, they have a one vendor to send out notifications to their end users. SMS, they have another vendor. So Pinpoint is a combined engagement platform which will help you to kind of get that going in a single place, which will help. So we have done more than 30 plus projects with respect to Pinpoint as well. Right? When it comes to the optimization piece, once you are on the cloud, so when you move to cloud as a customer, the first thing that you will do is you will be happy that I have moved to something which I can do better. Now, once you are on the cloud, optimization plays a major role. So whether it is cost or the way it is running, that's where our managed services comes into the play, well-architected reviews comes into the play. How can you run workloads better in a most cost-efficient way, right? That's where our expertise with respect to Spot projects will help. Spot instances offers a lot of what can I say, a lot of cost savings overall. So that's where we kind of help the customers to save costs. And also when it comes to optimization, we do our quarterly or monthly exercises along with the customers to identify places where we can reduce cost overall, right? Where may it be right sizing or may it be reserved instances, savings plans, etc. When it comes to our managed services business, so if you see this is the managed services portfolio that we maintain today. And NeoGrowth is one of our esteemed managed services customer. They are with us from almost 4 years now. So this will give us an idea on what all we will do. So we'll try to cover 360-degree view, right from monitoring to optimization to DR and failover and automation. So including all of that, we become a single point of contact for the customer to help them maintain their workloads on the cloud. So when it comes to migration, right, both migration and DevOps I talked about, we have a standard framework that we do. So we have a migration factory that we have built. So we know what it takes, what are the things that we'll have to consider to kind of do an efficient migration. Given the kind of experience that we have brought about in the last 4 or 5 years, we know the clear path on what it takes to successfully migrate the customer onto the cloud. So that's where, if you see, first we will try to help with the customer to strategize the migration, what they're running, are they ready, what applications are ready to move to cloud. That is where we do the migration planning. Then we pick 1 or 2 applications based on the customer's feasibility to do the proof of concept there, and then we go into the actual migrations in phases, and then it gets into the optimization phase. Right. Similarly, when it comes to DevOps, we have a DevOps framework as well, where we understand from the customer what exactly they are doing from the current DevOps place, right? What their release management practices are. That's where the discovery phase comes in. Then we try to understand what is their roadmap. Are they looking to containerize? Are they looking to move from commercial database to an open source database? And we work accordingly, and then set up the entire pipelines and make it automated as much as possible, right? So this is what I wanted to talk about. So whenever we are evaluating any applications to move to cloud, these are the 3 things that we'll have to keep in mind. So first thing is business should be convinced whether the business, if it moves to cloud, how it will affect, whether it is cost, whether it is soft benefit or straight benefit. So those are the things that has to be kept in mind. Second one is technical requirements, right? Whether the applications are suitable enough to move to cloud or not. Are they ready to move to cloud? If they move to cloud, what are the impact on the application from performance perspective or cost perspective, or even from the security perspective or compliance perspective, right? And then how we typically make sure that we create a win for the customer is to identify the ones which will have high business impact, so that the customer also feels comfortable with that, and also at the same time the application also should be technically ready to move to cloud. Now, given that understanding, now I want to move into the particular case of NeoGrowth, where kind of I'll try to take inputs from Vamsi on how Rapyder and AWS helped NeoGrowth when they were running it on an alternate platform. So Vamsi, if you can tell us, I think it's been 3.5 years that we have migrated to AWS. So you can tell us what was the main challenge that you were running. I know you were running 2 different workloads on 2 service providers. I would like to hear from you and share your experience. How did the thought come about, and how did Rapyder and AWS help you to do it today, to migrate into AWS?
Sure. Thanks, Priya. Before I get into the problem statement, just a brief introduction of who we are, what we do. NeoGrowth Credit is an MSME segment serving digital lender. We have been in this space for the last 7 years. We've served somewhere close to 40,000 plus customers. Typically disburse around $200 million in a year. That's the size at which we operate, and we operate on a pan-India basis. So coming to technology, most of our applications traditionally have been homegrown. Ever since we started out, the theme was to engineer our own applications, not buy something off the shelf, and therefore retain that ability to be highly agile, highly faster when it comes to go-to-market capabilities. So with that as a background, we embraced cloud pretty early upon, even before the current AWS journey that we're talking about. We were already on a pre-existing cloud environment. So what we realized at that point of time was that we had one stack which was running on open source technologies and one completely Microsoft stack running .NET workloads. So the idea was to reduce the overhead of maintenance, ensuring that security, etc., and also bring in some kind of economies of scale, if you like, and to basically keep life simple, within technology. I think that's where the journey between and the partnership between Rapyder and NeoGrowths started out 3.5 years ago. Initially, we started out, Rapyder started helping us as a migration partner. So we were on a different cloud platform. We migrated that entire Microsoft workload onto AWS, in addition to the existing workload on AWS. So we became a complete AWS cloud shop, basically. One of the first thoughts that have come to the mind was, what do I do with my existing investments? I have purchased my Microsoft SQL licenses, I've got Windows licenses. How do I retain them? So that's where I think the bring your own license or BYOL capability of that AWS offers, was a soothsayer, and I think it was a no-brainer that we should migrate and have this as a complete AWS shop. The second thought process was, as a sensitive and well-regulated industry, being in financial services space comes with a lot of regulation and compliance requirements. We are an ISO certified company. We are also an ISO 27001 company from an information security standpoint. PCI compliance could come in at any point of time once we get into payments. So there are a lot of compliance requirements. There's a lot of requirement around being auditable at any point of time. I think that's also a space where AWS conquered quite well. The fact AWS offers highly auditable platform and audit capabilities. For example, the AWS Audit Manager service comes in very handy. So that also boosted the confidence in choosing AWS. Thirdly, last but not the least, we did not really want to move on to one cloud because we want to consolidate. We also wanted a different level of consolidation, which meant we do not necessarily look at cloud as infrastructure as a service, but we also look at cloud as the platform bringing capabilities on AI and ML areas, areas around data warehousing, data science, etc., and that's where, as Anil spoke, a few minutes earlier, we saw AWS as a natural, platform of choice because of these services which go beyond cloud. We did not want an architecture that is cluttered with one cloud platform where we consume infra and then we go do our data warehousing on something else, ETLs on something else. We wanted that one technology platform which is beyond just infrastructure. It's not about the EC2s or the S3 boxes, but much more than that is what we wanted, and that's where I think AWS fit in. So coming back to the partnership, I think we started Rapyder and NeoGrowth journey started during the migration, and post migration, we have been happy customers of Rapyder, enjoying the managed services and database services that Rapyder offered. We have also done quite a few interesting projects that we will talk about maybe further too. So Yatreya, over to you.
Sure. So I think you have put it very well, Vamsi. I think the main idea was to consolidate at first choice, but also like to involve other services, other new things that you are planning to do as part of it. So that's where I want to kind of ask you, go ahead and ask you next, is that once you have moved to AWS, or rather during the migration, because you were already on another cloud, but once you moved to AWS, what were the challenges that you were facing, and how did the partnership with Rapyder and also specifically the new services that you talked about? I know you guys have been doing some good work. You talked about Redshift and data warehousing. You talked about recognition. I know you're doing it for some faster loan processing. That's where people upload their photos and PAN cards and things like that. So would like to hear from you on how Rapyder's and services has improved the posture of yours on AWS, and also like to hear from you what all other AWS services are you using. May not be listed on this slide, but happy to hear from you more.
Yeah, sure, Rapyder. So I think, like I said earlier, one of the early adopters we had on AWS services beyond infra was to do with data engineering. A lot of work went into setting up the whole data warehouse, which is now sliced into multiple data marts, which each of our business functions uses to create their own portfolio analytics. So they no longer come really to us and say, give me this MIS, give me this report, etc. So basically, you got the whole data warehouse connected to Tableau, and the functions are for each of the departments or functions have champions who can slice and dice this data, which is readily available to them on a data mart tab, and build their portfolio analytics. So that's one part of it. On the automation journey, we were looking at something that can kind of shrink the loan origination to disbursal, or if you like, sanction kind of a stage. Typically, the turnaround time for a customer when he first applies to the loan till the time a decision is stated out to him, a go no go decision, it used to vary anywhere between 5 to 7 business days a few years ago. And we saw this is one area where AI ML could kind of solve and crack something momentous for us. So that's where AWS recognition was one service that we really did a pilot on very closely, and finally adopted it. So what happens today is, a sales personnel from NeoGrowth can click a photograph on his mobile and upload it, and the recognition service in the backyard can scan it for different regular expressions. For example, if you're talking about a check leaf, it could look at regular expressions ranging from MICR code to who is it payable, and say whether this is a fraudulent check leaf or is it a genuine check leaf. And then also convert the entire text that is carried in that particular document into a JSON format, which can be fed into any mobile application, which takes forward, completely obviates the manual typewriting work of a sales guy, number one. Number two, because it's done in an automated way, my operations team doesn't really have to do maker checker, go back and duplication of effort, because one of the details has gone wrong, so go back to the customer, get that detail back, once again start the journey. So this doesn't happen right now. I think this has really helped us shrink the loan journey for our customers as well. I think between Rapyder and NeoGrowth, one of the key projects that we picked up last year and executed very well was the app modernization project. We had this monolith, the core loan management system, that we were looking at re-architecting onto microservices, and we wanted to containerize the deployment. So the learning had to start with something small. That's where we picked up individual microservices, a sample of 5 microservices, and went to Atreya and his team and asked for help with starting us on the ECS journey. This is one of the projects that has really given some confidence to the team to say, okay, now we know this a bit, we know how to maintain the ECS setup, and therefore let's look at migrating the monolith also onto ECS once it's broken into microservices. So I think these are a couple of projects.
Great. That's great to hear, Vamsi. I think it's very pleasing to hear how some of these individual services of AWS are from the partner, which will help in overall giving a business impact, right? That's what we were all talking about. So this is great to hear. So I think you touched upon the, I think we have touched upon where we started off with, where we are today. I think you also touched upon the POC that we did, or if I can call the sample of containerization that we did. So I wanted you to kind of give us a, I know your team and my team is working towards containerizing your mammoth.net monolith that is there today. That is in the works. So can you explain us how critical that particular project is for you? How ECS will help you there, and what is upcoming and what we can expect more from NeoGrowth on AWS from Rapyder as well.
Yeah, sure. So, Adri, I think the problem statement initially, a couple of years when we looked at this whole application and said, okay, this is a monolith, and therefore we want to move into microservices architecture for the obvious benefits of scaling, etc. But then there are plethora of opportunities that opened up, especially in the Indian demography. If you look at what's happening right now with the account aggregator framework or the OCEN framework. I mean, these are frameworks which will democratize lending in exactly the same fashion UPI has democratized payments. Now, the moment UPI as a framework was embraced by the Paytms, Googles, PhonePays of the world, today a merchant sitting somewhere in a remote village accepts a digital payment. So his digital journey started with the framework which had the backing of the federal government, right? So I think this is something that's pretty much on the roadmap even for lending with account aggregator as a framework. So what we looked at initially as a problem statement with monolith became even more a problem statement in terms of tapping the opportunity. You really want to be able to freely integrate with any framework with a REST API or a SOAP API. You want to literally piggyback onto the scale of, so there are two ways to create scale, right? One is you create it yourself, or you piggyback onto something that already offers you that scale. The latter is the easier version of creating scale, right? So I think that's where the ability for the system to integrate in a freewheeling mode with as many external systems as possible without necessarily creating a point-to-point architecture and therefore fragile architecture. So that was the problem statement got refined a little bit more, and it started making even more sense that we move on to microservices, and this loan management system that we had, it was built on Microsoft .NET framework, and we were looking at migrating it to something that's agnostic to any single platform. So whether I choose Windows or Linux, whether I choose ECS or EKS, whether I choose MySQL or Microsoft SQL, it shouldn't matter. So we wanted to get into that agnostic fashion. That's where we picked up, as part of that mammoth project, one of the mini projects that we picked up was to containerize the microservices that were getting coded into the 2.0 version of the system. So I think that's where we'll continue our work in the near future. Look forward to much work on that project. A second project that we might start pretty soon is adopting SageMaker more than what we did in the last couple of years. There's a lot of need to kind of give a go no go decision basis velocity or volume or quality of transactions, the digital presence of the customer, uh, to be able to say, hey, you are eligible for a loan, or you are not eligible for a loan, not basis point of time data but aggregated data. So this needs some kind of model training capability, and I think what's better than a service that's on the shopping kit of AWS, right? So I think SageMaker makes a natural choice there because we are a total AWS shop already, and I think that's one of the key projects on the roadmap. We briefly also touch based upon the remaining projects. DevOps, we have started with the DevOps initiative for CRM platform initially. We will extend that as a capability to all the applications. That's pretty much on the roadmap.
Great. Thank you, Vamsi. I think it is imperative once you move into containers and the container-based services. I think it improves the overall speed of the entire organization, and thus I hope it gives a lot of inputs to the way your business is run and gets some more business more as well, so that NeoGrowth can do better in their things, right? And it is fantastic to hear some of the feedback from you to use some of these native services so that it helps you to kind of fasten up the entire thing, right? Otherwise, you'll have to write code for each and every small things that is coming. That's where services like SageMaker and other things will help there. So fantastic to hear this. So let's hope. I think we are here to support you both from Rapyder and AWS to support the initiatives that NeoGrowth wants to take. Thank you for joining us once again in this short session that in your busy schedule. Thanks a lot. Before we end up, we can thanks everybody for attending the webinar from our side. If you have anything related to AWS or if you need any support, feel free to reach out to us in the below mentioned email IDs. Anil, over to you.
Thank you. Hey, thanks guys. It's a pleasure listening to you. We do have Q&A now. So if you have questions, please put them in the question section, and we would be happy to address those. Right? I do see a couple of questions already. So I think Vamsi, the first question is actually to you. Interesting one in terms of you started your journey 3 years ago. If somebody were to start their journey today in terms of moving their Microsoft to AWS, what is it that you will advise in based on your experience? So, any particular advice to actually starting this journey today?
Yeah, so Anil, thanks for that. So I think the two thoughts that come to my mind are, while AWS is no doubt an excellent choice for Microsoft workloads, the idea is to kind of tap a cloud platform for much beyond just one workload, kind of consolidate and have it. Multi-cloud architecture might work for large estates, but if you are starting today, start with that one platform which offers as many services as you need, not really corresponding to just your compute, storage, database capabilities, but go much beyond to the AI, ML territories and your data warehousing, your containerization, etc., etc. I think that's where AWS fits in very well. So that's one recommendation. The second recommendation is to not really look at it as a cost optimization opportunity, but rather a revenue generating opportunity, because there are models that can be built. So I think cloud embracement has always been looked at as, oh, okay, what will happen if I get rid of my on-prem data center and move to cloud? How much will I save? I think one shift that's already happening and is pretty evident is that you get to achieve more than just optimizing your cost. Yeah, so I think in this bargain you will also create opportunities of revenue generation through, let's say, a machine learning model or an AI service that is on tap available.
Thanks. That helps. Thank you. I kind of agree with you in terms of taking a long-term view. The next question, Atre, is actually to you. Interesting question in terms of when you want to modernize, when you were modernizing the monolith, as Vamsi was mentioning, any particular learnings that you have for customers who are modernizing and their .NET-based monolith applications?
Yeah, that's a very important thing. So I think people get into. So I have seen customers coming in. I think Vamsi was very specific about it, right? It's not only a change for the customers who are deploying it, it's the change in the way developers are developing that as well. It's a change for them as well. So it has to start from the developer mindset, because a partner like us can come, containerize it and go back, but it shouldn't become a problem for the customer who is maintaining it and the developer who is maintaining it. So that's where what we typically tell is, take one part of the application, get accustomed to it, make sure that the developers and the entire team, right, whether it is operations team and also the production support team, they should also be aware on what changes will happen. Do a small kind of a proof of concept or a kind of a test run or something for one of the applications, and then do a detailed kind of walkthrough on how to split that microservice where traffic is coming more for that monolith today, and then try to containerize. I think that will help overall in taking advantage completely, rather than just going all out because the industry is moving towards containers. I'll also move towards containers. So that may not be a good idea. And it also depends on what is the roadmap of the product and things like that. So if it is going to be in your portfolio for a long time, best time to invest time to kind of analyze first and then try to do it in a phase manner. That would be my suggestion, Anil.
Thanks for sharing that. That's actually useful. And Vamsi, I think the next one for you in terms of, I think this is for both of you, so I'll like you to go one by one. What was the biggest challenge that you faced in this migration? So Vamsi, if you could take that.
Yeah, if I have to take it first, I think the biggest challenge is never technical, right? The biggest change is about the org change, man. The organizational change, and in an engineering unit, you are really trying to convince people to learn new things, right? Uh, so what is in it for me, right? What is in it for me if I have to go through this whole learning challenge and move from one platform to another? Hey, I am already conversant with this entire set of services. How easy is it to learn? So I think that's also a place where AWS scored quite well, because the services were intuitive, the terminology was consistent, it was very easy to relate to a service, and EC2 is a elastic compute capacity, right? So S3 is a storage. So the terminology was so intuitive, number one. Number two, it comes with the user interface capabilities, which makes it fairly easy to hop onto and learn. I think that's one part. The second part was that there were more people voting for the platform because of services outside of infra, which was not the case with the other platform. I think, yeah, so it's always about convincing your engineering team to invest their otherwise precious time, which anyways goes into sprint on sprint development work. What will I tell them to say, hey, you need to invest an hour or two in a day to learn this new platform, because we are going to move on to this new platform. So that I think was the biggest challenge that we.
Cool, thanks. I think that's insightful. Atreya, what was your biggest challenge when you were working on migration?
So I would say, I mean, I know Vamsi has covered the business aspect of it. I'll go a little bit technical. So when it comes to the migration, it was very well planned, right? Both the NeoGrowth team and our team combined very well, and we did a couple of dry runs because this was a loan management application that we were migrating, which means there is a lot in stake on either parties, right? And also there were a couple of third-party applications which were used, and we had to kind of set up some of these post-migration things. Normally, what happens? We do the entire migration, and the team takes off for 3 hours, 4 hours. But in this case, it was not the case, because we had to continue after the migration is done. We had to do certain post-build stuffs, and also the indexes need to be rebuilt, and there were quite a bit of things to do. So that was a good learning for us. And at that time, I mean, it's like I'm talking for 3.5, 4 years back. It was a new thing for us as well. So it was a fantastic learning experience for all of us from Rapyder as well.
That's good, Sarah. Thank you. So with that, we've come to end of today's session. A big thanks to Atreya and Vamsi for being so generous with your time and sharing your insights. Thanks a lot. Thanks to the audience as well. We'd want to thank you for being a very patient audience, questions, and being with us today. A gentle reminder to fill up the post session survey that you will receive, so that this will help us in delivering, continuing to deliver information that is useful for you and your cloud computing journeys. And finally, if you're interested in attending other sessions on this online event, refer to the link that we have shared in the chat box. We'll look forward to see you at future AWS events, and hopefully you found the session useful, and you will join us for more sessions on this event. So with that, thanks a lot. Thanks Atreya, thanks Vamsi, and thanks to the audience. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.